Hello, everybody. I wanted to make a video looking at Enzo and some of the things that have been going on with where he's playing and how he's playing. And I don't think it's as dramatic a problem as some people do, but I think there's some obvious shortcomings of what's going on. So let's get into it. We'll look at some data. We'll look at some video. So I tweeted this out on Monday. Here are some stats from Enzo playing in the pivot. Here are some stats from him playing in a 10. So in the pivot, 0.18 XG on 2.5 shots, 0.25 XA on 6.5 shot creating actions as per FBref, 16 progressive passes, 4 passes into the box, 4 progressive carries. Those are all per 90. So those are like crazy numbers for what is nominally a deeper lying midfield player. And I think we saw this, right, in the first 3 games, 4 games, depending on how you classify the Nottingham Forest game, where he plays kind of as a 10. Opta and some of the other data orgs had it as a back 3. But we know it wasn't a back 3, it was just Showell as a winger. And Enzo kind of played as like a free 10. Sometimes he was low, sometimes he was high. But the last 30 minutes of the game, he goes for Gallagher and is very much playing in the double pivot. And then you have the Bournemouth game where he plays as the left of a midfield 3, and you have the game on the weekend against Villa where he plays as a pure 10, 4-2-3-1. And in those 2 games, he's got 0.1 XG on 1 shot, 0 XA on 1.5 shot creating actions, 2.5 progressive passes, 0 passes into the box, 1 progressive carry. And this is all while Chelsea's attacking numbers have largely held up the same. So you might be saying, okay, what's going on? And so there's a couple things to think about. And I don't think it's as dramatic as what people are saying. But clearly there's a decrease in his production, and I do think it hurts the team as a whole. So what is the first thing to think about? So on the left, we've got all the games where he plays at least 30 minutes in a midfield 2. So you have Liverpool, West Ham, Luton Town, Nottingham Forest. In all 3, he's getting lots and lots of touches. Luton Town, only 68 passes attempted. We're up 3-0. We gave them the ball at the end of the game. It's fine. But the other games, Liverpool, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, all above 95 passes attempted. Quite high completion, whatever. But lots of impact, lots of involvement. And this is the nice thing when Enzo plays lower, is he can come get passes here just inside of our half off of the center backs, and he can play these longer passes. And you might say, okay, well, the center backs can play these passes. We don't need him lower to do that. And that's true to an extent. But you'll see when we watch the clips, it's very different when he plays it, because now who is engaging him opens up space for other people. It also allows him to play and then join into the next line. That's the thing we see a lot. When we see him play as a 10 or as an attacking midfielder, so the Bournemouth and the Villa games, way lower involvement. And this is not just a time thing, right? So if in 80 minutes he had 46 passes, in 90 minutes he has, he has 52 passes or something. Same with 35 in 2/3 of the game. Okay, he gets 50 passes. This is way less involvement. And a lot of that is because he's so much higher, right? You don't have the volume here. And it's much harder to get him on the ball here than it is to get him on the ball here. The other thing you might notice is that the proportion of passes that are forwards instead of backwards is much lower. So if we look at, say, Liverpool or Nottingham Forest, so many passes forward, bam, 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 over and over and over. So many passes forward, especially out to the right. But in these 2 games, lots of passes sideways, lots of passes backwards, very little forward. And some of that is to do with their pressing. Both of these teams press much more aggressively than at least 3 of these teams, right? That's a big part of it. But Liverpool pressed very aggressively, and we still saw it. So I think part of this is how high he is. And I also think part of it is what side he's on. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. And again, just to really hammer it home, so here you have Enzo last season. So you're at something like 10 progressive passes, decent ball winning numbers, but not amazing. Lots of through balls, and lots of turnovers, whatever. This season, in just the games he plays as a midfielder, lots of progressive passes, lots of shot assists, lots of through balls, lots of bringing the ball up the pitch, no ball winning. A lot of this is because Chelsea had all the ball in a lot of those games, but no ball winning. And then we see when we add the attacking midfielder minutes in, we get significant reductions in progressive passes, significant reductions in key passes, significant reductions in through balls, so on, so on, so on, so on. And these are all from McClockBot from Chicago Dimitri. Check it out. Very, very nice app. So the first question to think about when we want to come up with solutions for how to fix this is we have to figure out why Mauricio Pochettino is choosing to play Enzo higher. Because I think if you just say, well, no, just don't. Just swap him and Gallagher, which is something I have been saying a lot. I think you have to recognize that there is a reason he is choosing not to do that, and you have to address it. So the first is the injury list. So I think, obviously, Chukwuemeka was playing a lot as the 10, and Enzo was playing deeper. This was how Chelsea chose to play to start the season. I think another player who could play in the 10 is Nkunku. Both those players are gone. Somebody else has to play there. Cole Palmer, as of yet, is not ready to play there. I do not think Pochettino will play him much as a 10. Because I think the defensive pressing work isn't great. And the ability to collect second balls I don't think that's a strength of Palmer's game. So we might see it today, on Wednesday, but I don't think we will see it regularly. So this is one reason why I think he's chosen to play Enzo a little bit higher. And the other is the ball winning. Enzo played almost exclusively as a 6 last year, so this is all of his minutes at Chelsea last year, plus all of his minutes this season, and you see a couple things. The tackles are reasonably high, which is fine, but tackles aren't really the ball winning you want. The ball winning you want from players in your double pivot is lots of interceptions and lots of collecting second balls without being dribbled past often. And so what we see is that Enzo engages in tackles a lot, but he wins a very small proportion of the tackles that he jumps into. So when you look at his percentage of dribblers tackle, challenges lost, he scores quite low. This is really bad if he's the last line of defense midfield. And so what we've seen is that Poch has done this before with players like Verratti. Shout out to Seb Chapuis, who has said similar, who pointed this out to me, that Poch did the same thing with Verratti, where he played him further forward with 2 ball winners behind him to try and make him a little bit more free because his ball winning maybe wasn't the best as a deeper midfielder. This was also a thing with Lo Celso at Spurs. He didn't like playing him lower because the ball winning was light. It took him almost a year and a half to play Dembele deeper because the ball winning was light. This is a thing with Pochettino, that if the ball winning is light in his defensive midfielder, he doesn't like to play him lower. And I think this is going to be difficult to compensate. So I wanted to think about what solutions there are available to fix this. And so there's a couple of things. One is we could play a 4-3-3. This is Chelsea's past map against Bournemouth, where it was listed as a 4-2-3-1. You can see very clearly back 4, 6, 8, 8, winger, 9, winger. Very clearly 4-3-3. And Enzo played as the left 8 here. I think this is actually a pretty good solution. Ugochukwu played as the 6 here. I think you could do this with Caicedo, Enzo and Gallagher. The thing that I really didn't like against Bournemouth was that Enzo was on the left, which I'll show some stuff in the clips. But I think this is actually a quite good solution. I have always sort of assumed that when Lavia is fit, the 3 midfielders who have been playing all the time right now, which is Caicedo, Gallagher, and Enzo, and Lavia, Poch will just pick 3 of them, and they will play as a flat 3, and they will rotate who is lowest to collect the ball, and it will kind of always end up with Caicedo deepest to defend +1, whether that's Gallagher or Lavia or Enzo, kind of depends on the moment, but it will be Caicedo +1 deepest all the time. Defensively, in possession, they will be very much free to rotate. What I want you to think about with this is something like Madrid's midfield 3, where you have Modric, Kroos, and Casemiro, where Casemiro is nominally the deepest one defensively, but the other two are very much coming in next to him or in place of him all the time to help build. And I think that's a good solution for Enzo. The other is that we can look at a lot more midfield rotation, so you might see things like Caicedo pops out to fullback, Gusto high, Sterling inside, Enzo comes lower. You might just see Enzo come lower from the weak side and Gallagher gets out. That's one we see a lot. And I think we can use a little bit more of these to get Enzo on the ball, but much more intentionally. Right now it feels a little bit, it's just happening. And this is something I think that we can coach into them a lot more, to have Enzo drop deeper, to find things but still maintain our numbers high and pinning on the back line. Show some video. So one of the things I want to talk about is Enzo on the right. Enzo is a much, much, much better passer when he's on the right side of the field, because he is not very comfortable using his left foot. He can use it, but he is not a great passer with his left foot. So what we see in a lot of these clips is when he is on the right side of the field, he's much more creative. He's much more willing to play quickly. Right, so here's one. This is one of these midfield rotations we talk about. So he comes low in place of the fullback. This might be something that we might call this a mid-low. So he comes all the way to where like a fullback might be. And what's fun about Enzo receiving in spots like this is it really messes up the reference of who is supposed to step to him. If this was just a fullback and you had a winger high and wide and Enzo was here, it would be very, very clear that the fullback would deal with the winger, the midfielder would screen the midfielder, and you would have the winger step, right? So here would be the winger. But because it's the midfielder stepping out, the fullback is high, the winger is high, it's now like, oh, does the midfielder step? And the distances are very, very big. So you end up with all these weird scenarios. You'll see this one, nothing really happens with it. It's just to show the setup. But now you can see the same thing. Enzo goes outside of it. And now, because this winger is normally used to dealing with the fullback, he's like, well, I don't really know what to do. He's too narrow. So now when Enzo receives, he's able to play in depth to a winger. This one's a little bit overhit, but it's a great moment. Here you have him low and inside. Ooh. Excuse me. Sorry. Here you have him low and inside. And again, it's unclear. Is it the striker stepping? Because normally this would not be the striker stepping. It would be one of these four in Villa's 4-4-2. So instead, you end up with Sterling running in behind, who's probably onside. Chelsea get an amazing chance that ends up getting flagged off because of it. And now watch when Enzo does the exact same thing on the left. Okay, so this is against Bournemouth. He rolls out to left back. He has no ability to play inside, right? Because on his left foot, he's not going to play this pass. He's not going to play into the next line. So he ends up stuck here and having to play in such a small space, where you can imagine Enzo on his right foot here is maybe playing Jackson in behind, is maybe looking inside to the other side, all sorts of options, but he's stuck on the left the whole time. So that's one thing to talk about is Enzo on the right. Here's another example against Liverpool, right? So now he's playing deeper and he's playing on the right. Now he gets to do all these fun rotations from a better spot to do them. So when he starts high and has to make the rotation here, there's no real potential for double moves or anything fun because you just have to make the distances right. But if he starts inside, he gets to play with all these players' references. So here's a couple passes against Liverpool. Here he shows inside the structure, and they think he's going to bounce out, and he decides to skip inside to Sterling, and then join. And you still have the 6 to sit and cover for you, but he's joined into this amazing spot. Here's another one. He's pulled out to the fullback spot. And again, the references are all messed up. Liverpool defend 4-4-2 as well. The winger's coming from way too central because he is dealing with a midfielder rotating low. So he overcorrects to take away the line, which opens up Enzo's ability to come inside, try and play something in behind. Here's another one. Rotates low again. And now because he's rotated low, he's attracted the winger, right? If we look at the last couple ones, like I think this is Diaz. Watch how attracted Diaz is. Okay, watch how attracted Diaz is. He's like, oh, is it me? He receives. Oh, did it again. did it again. Sorry. Diaz is attracted, so he's not screening Reece James properly, so he's able to play into the next line, which is this great moment for Chelsea. Right, this is what leads to the Jackson chance. And these are all little things, right? These are all little things. Here's another one. This is a great one from a build. This one is something called a rollout. So if the midfielder comes lower than the fullback into where the fullback is, it's a mid-low. If they come out higher than the fullback, we might call it a rollout. But watch this one. He comes low to bait the press, and now he rolls out to the right, and now you have all this ability to get him into the next line. But if Enzo starts higher, all right, so let's look at this setup. Okay, if Enzo starts here and rolls out, he just gets picked up by the 6 as he comes. But because he started lower, he has all the space to receive away from the 6, and he's able to play into the channel with this really, really dangerous moment. So that's all I've got for clips. I'll put it on this slide. I think these are 2 things we can try with Enzo. A little bit more 4-3-3, but playing him on the right-hand side, and a little bit more deliberate rotations in possession. I think my next video is going to be about Conor Gallagher, because he's been doing some really interesting things, covering up all the holes of these two and wearing many, many hats to make midfield work. But that's all I've got. Thanks again for watching as always, and hopefully we win today.